What's up, guys? Let's go over the best way for you to prepare for the Abattoir of Zir, the brand new content that's coming out very soon. You guys are actually seeing gameplay of the Abattoir of Zir in the background provided by Blizzard. So just as a heads up, this is basically a dungeon that you go in, but it has a different sort of mechanic. Basically, you have 10 minutes to go ahead and finish this, and at the very end of the run, there are 3 little bosses that spawn. And I say little bosses because you don't have to build up that stagger bar like you normally would. As far as I'm aware of, you can just go straight stun them or apply any CC and it should apply, but there is some sort of breakpoint at some sort of interval where they are going to be immune. You can't just like perma stun them. Nonetheless, it's actually going to be a lot easier than we think. So starting right off, let's go over one of the most important things is how do we actually acquire this? So to actually acquire the Abattoir of Zir and to be able to do it, you have to complete your entire season journey. So if you have not done this, now is absolutely the time to do it. You can go to different Discord groups, maybe hit up some friends, hey, have you finished it? Because you can do a lot of these objectives with a party. So it's much faster if you do it with a party, obviously. But yeah, you have to complete your entire season journey to even access this. Then what you're going to do is you're going to be able to go to the occultist and you're going to craft the Bloodforged Sigils. These will cost a hefty amount of sigil powder. So now is the time, if you want to prepare for it, save up your sigil powder. That means you may have to do some of the dungeons that you don't want to do. Ideally, do all of your dungeons with a group, have them pop the better ones, and just save your sigil powder so you can immediately go into the different sigils. And as you can see, they will cost more. So it starts off at 800. I don't know what 25 will actually have. They didn't show off 25 being able to be crafted. Maybe it's a drop only. I don't know. But in terms of the order, you'd think that you'd have to do it in order, as in you have to complete 1 to go to 2, kind of like a greater rift. But it doesn't seem like that is the case, at least what they showed off in the demo. So again, maybe you can just craft all, maybe you have to do tier 20 and then you can go through it, but there's no tier 11, 12, 13. It just goes from tier 10 straight to tier 20. So my guess is there should be several steps in between there, but this is the info that we have. So again, the higher the tier, you can see the sigil powder is almost doubled here because the person that was playing could craft 11 Bloodforged Sigils tier 1, but only could craft 5 of the tier 20. So sigil powder will be something that you may want to look into actually saving. It'll actually cost gold as well. I'm not sure if maybe this was the breakpoint and that's why they couldn't craft more. I don't know. Just trying to give you guys every single bit of information out there for the Abattoir of Zir. The next thing that I think is really important is to actually make sure that you can do a Sigil 100. If you cannot do a Sigil 100, you will not be able to do the brand new Abattoir of Zir. This basically is going to be content that is specifically for characters that are going to be beyond the ability to do Sigil 100. So again, if you can't do Sigil 100, make sure your build can actually go and do that. There are a couple of numbers that you want to actually reach. Specifically in the armor department, anything under 13,200 armor is going to be far too low. I have a few video guides and I'll also pin them down below that talk about how you can increase your armor and how you can survive in the Sigil 100s and beyond. But basically, these are some of the breakpoints. You obviously want to reach maximum resistance, and on top of that, get your armor to be at least 13,200. You're going to need to go more than likely further beyond that. Next up, you do want to try to get 925 gear. This is really important. So farming Duriel is going to be the best method to try to get 925s. It's the most important specifically in the category of the weapon to make sure you have those high item powers. The rest of them, it's still going to help, but ideally that's what you want to go ahead and achieve in your weapon department. On top of that, if you need any of the uber uniques, now is the time to go ahead and farm them for this content because this is the most difficult content that we've ever seen in the game. I do have a video guide that goes over how you can get extra Duriel runs, get Duriel runs for free, and essentially how to do it more efficiently. I will also link that down below. There are several uber uniques that can make this a cakewalk. Some of these will be RNG. Obviously, to acquire them, it's going to be quite rare and RNG, but there are some items that you may have in your stash. You're like, oh man, this item sucks. And I was thinking the same for the most part, but for the Abattoir of Zir, this could allow you in theory to actually get a certain clear of a sigil, like, you know, whatever number in the Abattoir of Zir, whatever number it is, let's say like the Bloodforged Sigil 25. Let's say your character can't actually do that. You equip this thing, you get a pylon, there you go, or shrine, same thing. Basically, you'd able to be completing a sigil that you could not normally compete with, because in Diablo 3, this was another thing, like you would have to get some pylons to actually complete, and if you can get shrine effects in here with not only this item, but actually getting the shrine, that's going to be big. And if you get a conduit or any of like the artillery ones, you're going to be able to shred through content. So if you reach a breakpoint where you cannot complete it, you may have to cheese your way with something like this. There's several other items that you may be able to cheese with, but this could be one of them. Also, Melted Heart of Sigil can, in theory, some builds may be able to become immortal with it, and it depends on the class you are playing. There is going to be a nerf to this next season. It's mostly for PvP, but just as a heads up, this item can make some builds that normally wouldn't be able to tank things able to be a tank. Now, it's mostly damage that I think that you will want. This is something that they mentioned in the live stream. Honestly, no one really knows at the end of the day how hard 25 is, but they showed off a Sigil 10 and the character was unable to complete it, and it looked like a relatively min-max character, which you guys are seeing in the background. Again, the footage is provided by Blizzard. But you really want to make sure that you have enough tankiness, because if you die one time, this is the most important thing. If you die once, the whole run is over. If anyone in your party dies once, it's all over. It basically just makes the Sigil go completely away. You lose it. The thing is just gone. Another thing I want to go ahead and mention is to try to get some elixirs ready, because this is the hardest content. You want to be able to have those elixirs ready. Most people will probably favor the Iron Skin elixir, but if you are lacking damage, a lot of builds can make great use out of the Elixir of Resourcefulness. If you're playing a Hodabar, that's like 50x multiplicative damage. It is going to be crazy how good some of these elixirs and bonus damage based off of getting some resource, or if you go beyond resource. This is a huge way to get damage for a lot of characters, because these enemies at some point will more than likely be very tanky. And if you can get extra resources so you don't have to use generators, this could be good. Now, depending on the build that you're playing, some of these may be better than others, but for the most part, I want to say getting like increased crit is always good. But the armor one will probably be something that you may want, and these will probably shoot up in price. If any of you guys do use any of the Diablo trade websites, you've probably seen some increases on prices on certain items, and this will be probably one of the more sought after ones for you to use. And also, don't forget on the incenses, especially if you're playing in a group, you can actually stack a bunch of different incenses, so you can remain buzzed. Look at this, 500 life for each nearby player with, you know, 4 players in the party. That's an extra 2k life, and then you can start popping the other ones. And remember, these all get multiplied times 4 if your team is nearby. More than likely, you do want to stick together with that. And there's also like the Chorus of War, which is probably one of the most insane ones, because it can increase your stats by a long shot as well. So get your resources ready so you can actually face the Abattoir of Zir. Another thing I want to mention, a lot of people have been talking about tier lists, and I will probably drop a tier list in terms of like what is the best builds for Abattoir of Zir. And you'll notice I've been talking about defenses mostly. And the reason why I'm talking about defenses mostly is because there is a new glyph that you're going to be able to get, and you will get this. I believe it's 100% drop chance on the Abattoir of Zir on your first completion, which obviously on the first one, it's maybe kind of equivalent to a Sigil 100, maybe just a little bit harder. But there is this item, and they have not changed the text. In the demo that they showed off recently in the campfire, it has the exact same text. Look at this glyph socket. This is in Maxroll. Keep in mind, take it with a grain of salt, things could be changing, but what they showed off in the demo was the exact same text, where it's saying that for core stats, you're going to be able to get an insane amount of damage. Look at this on a barbarian board here, okay? So it's giving us 4,000, okay? 4,000 increased damage. There is so much damage with this, to the point where you could play almost any build and absolutely just steamroll content. So I wouldn't worry too much about damage once you unlock the Tears of Blood. Now, it's going to take an insane long time to max this out. This is obviously considering it maxed out, but if you are able to acquire it, you can just keep on doing more sigils, and it gives you 1,000 XP. Now, how far it's going to take to actually get this thing maxed out? It's probably going to be a lot, because the first level was like just, I think it was 2,000, then it goes up by a significant amount. So maybe the bottleneck will actually be how much time can you invest into slamming out more of these dungeons again and again, because as far as I'm aware of, glyph XP just keeps on, just working, right? Whereas in Diablo 3, you would have to do a certain greater rift equivalent to a certain level that would actually let you upgrade. Otherwise, you wouldn't get a chance to upgrade your gems. So it should be a relatively smooth process, and this is why I'm saying damage might not be that big of a deal after you get the Tears of Blood, which, as far as I'm aware of, you just get it. It's not like oh, this is a uber unique drop, but it's one of the most powerful things in the game, and it gives you based off of core stats. Now, if you guys didn't know, a core stat is all of the stats in Diablo 4. That's strength, int, willpower, and dexterity. So as far as like where do you want to insert this, because I've had a lot of people ask, the thing is that I still, even right now, and they just uploaded that gameplay, I still don't believe it's supposed to work off of all the core stats. That just gives you way too much damage. My guess is it works off of your core stats on your actual character. So if I'm playing Barbarian, that's strength. But the way it's worded, it seems like it should work with everything. And if that's the case, literally throw it in wherever. You can throw it in an area. And this is kind of the key thing to prepare for it. Look at your Paragon board. Unless you really need that specific legendary power, each one, okay, each one of those nodes that gives you strength, dex, or whatever is giving you 81x multiplicative damage. That is crazy. A lot of the like nodes will give you like a 10x, but this is for like the small plus 5 dex plus 5 int on a barbarian is giving us 86x. So at this point, you don't even care about what the heck the glyph is. You don't care about the location in terms of, oh, I need to reach maybe a certain breakpoint for this. What you ideally want to do is look at all of the Paragon boards and find out which one has the most amount of strength, dex, int, and willpower. Don't look at any of these other things. These things don't matter at all. When one small node, 1 plus 5 strength, is equal to 81x multiplicative damage, like the extra damage while healthy, that doesn't matter at all because it's just too small of a number. You cannot compete with this at all. So find a Paragon board that has the most amount of nodes with the least amount of missing holes. And I originally was going to make a video going over every single class, but I think it's kind of a waste of time. And the reason why is, again, I genuinely don't believe this is how this is going to work. There's no way it could come out and have 4,000 X damage. If it does, then again, just look for any little holes that you would see. Count how many holes there are, and then also, mostly you want to count in the radius, because this can go up to level 200, you want to also factor in which ones are going to give you stat points versus like plus armor or whatever. Like, you don't want those. You want as many, again, stat points as possible. So that's the most important thing. Another thing I think is really important that I have not seen other content creators talk about is the actual thing itself, the Bloodforged Sigils, the Abattoir of Zir. When you actually open these up, it's not like a normal nightmare dungeon in terms of being able to see all of the mods. So meaning that like the monsters may take like less lightning damage, or they take a bunch less damage from a certain type. You cannot see this. They even mentioned the live stream. You will not be able to see the dungeon affixes when you go ahead and open these up. So what I want to go ahead and give you guys the info on is, if you do a sigil, let's say you've been doing sigil 1, you eventually get to sigil 10, you're like, wow, sigil 10 is really hard. You may have just opened up a sigil where, let's say that you are doing a ball lightning like in the gameplay here. The monsters are taking 40% less lightning damage. So you lose 40% of your damage and you didn't even know. So it's going to be good to be able to think, okay, maybe I failed that one. I'm going to open up another one. Don't think you failed just because, well, it's a higher sigil number. There's a bunch of modifiers. It's almost like if you played PoE, a corrupted map. You have no idea what the mods are until you walk in, unless, of course, you can see that all the monsters have suppressor, or all the monsters have some sort of condition that you wouldn't be able to, notice, perhaps. Or if you do notice them, that would obviously be good. But there's another few sets of modifiers. So not only do we have damage to consider, there is one that's really nasty for sorceresses, and that is to barriers. There is a monster mod that, like, monsters deal 100% more damage to barriers. If you play a sorceress, any skill that you activate, more than likely you've put on your skill tree to gain some sort of a barrier. This means you take 100% more damage, and you may think that, man, I'm just not tanky enough for this next tier. This is very important. So that's going to go ahead and wrap things up. So again, check out some of the videos that I'm going to be linking in the pin. It's very good that you check it out for the defenses, and make sure you get as much defenses as possible. As long as you're able to do Sigil 100, I want to say with this, I know I harped on it a long time, that I still genuinely don't believe they're going to release something with 4,000x multiplicative damage. It's just way too crazy. If they do, then literally you could take any like basic attack and you could probably just beat the entire game. Now we're going to be able to do as the new Abattoir of Zir 25 with this. I mean, that's just so much damage. We're going into Diablo 3 of like billions and trillions of damage if this comes out the way it does. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see. If you guys enjoyed the video though, drop a like on it. If you're new here and you want to see the Abattoir of Zir gameplay with the plus 4,000 damage if it does come out, I'll be dropping it very soon. But anyways, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.